Hey everyone, my name is Mitch Dyer. This is Jared Petty.
Hi.
Jared, there is currently a threat to video game preservation going on in the world.
Yeah, there is a threat. There are threats imminent, threats inbound, but luckily there is probably something we can do about that threat.
Good. So in the basic terms, there is a group of people who want to preserve the existence of video games forever.
Yeah, video games are art, and people are trying to preserve their history. They know that we lost a lot of old film when film was young. You know, video games, we're still in the infancy of video games when you compare them to movies, you know, the amount of time. And there's all these old movies we lost. So there are groups of people, several museums actually, including the Internet Archive, that are trying to collect all video games and make sure that we have them so future generations could see what they were like. The problem with this is that there's this law called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. It was passed around the turn of the last century. And it was to deal with copyright in the internet age. Now, some of that law is fine, but some of that law is presenting problems for digital preservation.
Sure, I would imagine this is a result of stuff like Napster, right? Like lots of rampant piracy at the turn of the century. Lots of people having a lot of questions about what is the value of digital media? What is the value of consumable stuff?
Yeah, and we understand that people want to have the right to protect the products they create and the things they invent and have some control over them.
Sure.
But then you run into weird issues like what's happening now, where when people switch off servers and suddenly games or parts of games don't work anymore. Now, if you don't mod consoles or create new emulation methods, then you're going to lose those games forever because they don't have any server to talk to. So people are doing that. Well, the problem is modding a console is now technically illegal, thanks to the DMCA. That's one of the provisions. Any effort to get around copyright protection in practically anything electronic is illegal. So hacking your console, according to the DMCA, is illegal. Or jailbreaking your phone is technically illegal. So these folks, even though they're doing it for very good purposes for history, are being opposed by the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, which, by the way, that's the same group that puts on E3.
Sure. Is the solution necessarily to have a game be playable? Does a game need to be playable to be kind of accounted for? Does it need to be? Do you need to walk into a museum to play it, or could you look at old videos, documented anecdotes? Is that enough?
If watching a video on YouTube, well, that shows you what a game looked like. But again, that's not all that different than looking at fractions of a movie. You play a game. You don't just watch a game. So no, I think making it playable, it's an experiential medium. That's part of the art. You know, there's a huge difference between watching Gone Home and playing Gone Home, watching The Last of Us and playing The Last of Us. Heck, watching Pac-Man and playing Pac-Man. One's interesting,
pretty
one's
good.
boring. Yeah. So I think that's what's important. So the argument here is it belongs in a museum.
Sure, absolutely.
So what can we do about this? Well, ultimately, I think the problem largely rests, one, in the fact that we've got trade groups pushing, in this case, on a bad cause. But second,
and an old law.
Yeah, I think that's
based
the
on something that's really changed. The way we consume games and the way that media has changed has kind of necessitated maybe a revision or definitely a revision of that law.
So the law needs to change. So what can we do about that? Folks, this is where we get involved in our own government. Contact the Copyright Office, contact the Library of Congress, contact your congressmen and your senators, and everybody else. Make signs, march around, scream and yell, write letters, at all, etc. But let people know you care about this. Ultimately, I think the DMCA needs to be changed.
Jared, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For more on video game preservation and all things video games, Jared, where can people go?
I believe they could go to IGN.